Welcome back to 5-Star Matchup. If you like the show, please consider becoming a member here on YouTube or joining on patreon.com/5SMU for exclusive merch and access to our Discord server. Well, Steelers fans, it's been a month with our precious shiny new baby boy Kenny Pickett, and I'm just stopping by your YouTube homepage to ask, how do you feel? You know, you learn a lot about a fan base when you guide a highlights show about the team through a long and arduous rebuilding process. And in case you weren't sure of it, that's absolutely what the Steelers are in the midst of, and I can make a case have been in the midst of since somewhere around 2018 or 19, which I'm not sure a lot of people realize. I think there's a case to be made that 2018 was the start of a new era, with Juju's emergence as a very real and talented player that Ben at points actually said to the media he would have targeted over Antonio Brown, and of course his draft mate James Conner taking over the lead halfback role from the disappearing act that was Le'Veon Bell. The team managed to have a very solid offensive year, scoring 26.8 points per game, and didn't seem to miss Le'Veon so much. But they struggled down the stretch, losing absolute killers to the Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, and Saints. By the way, the Joe Hayden pass interference call in this game is one of the most egregious fouls I've ever seen in any sport and made me change my entire stance on pass interference being a spot foul.
I've maybe even never seen a less of a pass interference play in my life.
Needless to say, the karma on that team was just poisonous and culminated in Antonio Brown bailing on the team before their Week 17 game against the Bengals, and before any of us had even realized it, the Killer Bees had disappeared just as suddenly as they'd arrived. So what happened in 2019? Oh, you know, just that whole Ben getting injured thing which led to the legend of Mason Rudolph and the tale of Duck Hodges. You know how that went. I was already here doing the show.
Waits, looks, fires it down the middle of the field. Wide open is Washington on his way. 40, 35, 30. Bumps a man at the 20. 15, 10.
The desperation of the early portion of that season led the Steelers to do something they've almost never done, which was to mortgage their next first-round pick for an active player. In this case, the sublime second-year safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has proven to be worth that and more. Minkah's arrival and recent re-signing have completely altered the entire course of the Steelers' defense and helped them to continue scheming for the emerging best player in the world, TJ Watt, to get to the quarterback with simple four-man rushes because he was that good up front while Minkah was that good back there. Okay, so now since 2017, both the offense and defense have changed dramatically, right? So what happened in 2020? Well, sports don't always follow a predetermined script. You know that part in Lord of the Rings where Frodo and all the hobbits see each other in Frodo's bedroom and they all jump around on the bed because they're all hyped that they all survived, and we all just kind of feel good at the end of the movie, before Frodo ultimately gets on that ship and sails away to some ethereal plane of existence? Well, that's called an epilogue, and it's pretty much exactly what we just saw happen with our football team and its star quarterback. Frodo was never supposed to be able to get to Mordor. Ben was never supposed to last almost 20 years, not the way he played. We were all saying it like literally 15 years ago. But he did, and that's amazing and commendable. The 11-0 start in 2020 and the just exquisite finales against the Browns and Ravens last year to sneak into the playoffs for no reason at all other than veteran guile were exactly how I want to remember Ben when he's chopping it up on the mic with Spence. I don't want to think about the time they threw it 59 times to score 10 points on the Bengals. Nor do I want to remember him as the dude who got absolutely f***ing rocked the last time I saw him play in person against the Raiders, because Mike Tomlin thought it was a good idea for my all-time sports hero to be protected by a third-round rookie who literally didn't want to play the position. I digress. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Kenny Pickett. So I guess I have some questions about some things. As I just painstakingly pointed out to you, I believe that the Steelers are somewhere around year 3 to 5 of a rebuild depending on how you see it. But how did they see it? While we know no one besides Diontae Johnson would use the R word, do they think this is year 1 of something? 2? 3? It's hard to know, right? We have a first-year defensive coordinator, a second-year offensive coordinator, a first-year GM, a former head coach serving as an assistant, and a head coach in his 16th year who's currently handling the arduous process of finding his next quarterback for the first time in his career. Is anybody even on the same page with each other? How could they be? So all of this brings me back around to that part about finding the next quarterback, and I'm asking you today, How confident are you that the Steelers have found their man in Kenny Pickett? This isn't a takedown or a puff piece. I just genuinely want to start a conversation about this after seeing him play a handful of games. Just my opinion, but I think the results have been mixed at best. I don't think Pickett has been as bad as his stats suggest, and yes, I do believe there have been some very encouraging signs. But if I'm being honest, I know for sure that I'm not an impartial judge on the matter. I can't help but root for the kid. I want him to be successful. But much like Ben last year, I think he's been put in an unfortunate situation. And I think you could say the same thing over the last couple years about both Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky. No quarterback that's taken snaps for the Steelers since 2019 has had the benefit of a functioning offense to aid them. Shoot, Mason, Dobbs, and Duck didn't even have a freaking quarterback coach, if I remember correctly. The only times they've actually had success was when Ben took matters into his own hands running his best version of advanced age backyard football. That's what 18 years of experience can buy you in this league. But obviously none of the other guys mentioned have had the benefit of that level of experience. I think Kenny has exhibited a pretty high football IQ, is a decisive passer, is faster than I realized, and has made some really good throws. I also think I'm a little freaked out about his performance in the rain after what I'd heard about the Senior Bowl and now seen in Miami, and I'm just really starting to question some of the decision making, which I don't think has gotten better in the month or so he's been playing. I think we're seeing a lot of the same short passing and ineffective dump-off offense we've seen with Canada so far, which at the very least should minimize turnovers, but it hasn't for Pickett. As for the end of this past game, I can't blame a rookie for tossing the game like that. He had multiple chances to do it, and eventually when you have to nickel and dime your way down the field like Chase said, and hurry, 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 that's gonna happen. Vets are gonna fool rooks, just how it goes more often than not. But as he kept dumping the ball off and eating more of the clock, I sat wondering how many chances he'd even had at running a 2-minute drill with his teammates. As we know, Trubisky got basically all of the first team reps in camp and through week 4 of the season. So you have to ask, would Pickett have been better prepared for that spot if he had simply been the starter since day one? Don't you think he'd be a little better overall right now if he had been practicing with Diontae Johnson and Chase Claypool for the last 12 weeks as opposed to the last 4? So then why was Mitch the starter? Was it because the team itself thought they were a contender? How could they possibly think an epilogue was gonna get a sequel? Frodo sailed away, Mike. He's gone. What was the point of having a quarterback competition that undoubtedly made every participant feel worse about their situation than they needed to? Some said Mason was as good or better than either guy in camp. He's already been here 5 years and started 10 games, but he knows he has zero chance to climb the ladder. Trubisky has been here 5 minutes, gets voted a captain, and is handed the job despite just being fine in camp. He also knows that he's a handful of mistakes away from his opportunity to be a starter in this league disappearing completely. Oh, and what else? He's gonna play his home games in the same stadium that the rookie first rounder they took after he signed played his games in? And they're gonna boo him immediately because of course they are. And the only one that may actually represent a viable future, Kenny Pickett, has his development stunted because the organization apparently was the last to know that they were in a rebuild. So what is my point? Well, it's that the Steelers just aren't very good right now, and I think they're probably the worst they've been since the turn of the millennia. I see a roster full of Acura TLs with 2 legit Ferraris, 1 aging but rad Mustang, and a couple of raffle tickets that may or may not pay off. Whatever happens with this team for the rest of 2022 is really just stage direction around the star of the play, who has become Kenny Pickett. The best we can hope for is that he provides a performance worthy of hope and joy, because I don't think there will be much else to go around. Also, that every member of this organization needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror this offseason and figure out who exactly they are. There is a lack of identity right now from this team that couldn't be more apparent. It's the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers, and 3 of their 5 captains are a benched quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky, Miles Killebrew, and a second-year running back. Think any of them know anything about sticky Lombardis? So what do you think? Am I right that they need to realize they're deeper into a rebuild than they think? Am I being too harsh on Mike T? Most importantly, what about Kenny P? Have you seen enough to know, or do you have genuine concerns? Let's hear it in the comments. And if you're still here, please consider becoming a member on patreon.com/5SMU for exclusive goodies and access to our Discord server. And, watch some other videos and stuff,